For painting Christmas tree fronds like this, a really great brush would be to use a wisp brush. And another really good brush, and these are not expensive brushes, yay for that, is a...
Hey everyone, welcome back to Rachel's Studio, where you learn not just the how but the why of watercolor painting so you move through your watercolor journey a lot faster. And in today's tutorial, I want to tell you about the most amazing brush. It is so cheap and it has so much character in the marks that it makes. I love using this brush for fur, but also for things like greenery and natural botanical elements like what you would find in a Christmas tree. So let me show you this amazing brush and why I love it so much.
But P.S. look at this amazing little dot bottle I discovered that is perfect for applying holiday decorations with masking to my Christmas tree. Want to know more? This quick tip is brought from the sponsor of this video, my Patreon tutorial library, which by the way is full of fall and holiday tutorials, both super advanced and super easy. So be sure to check out what is available by going to rachelstudio.com/Patreon index to see all the yummy watercolor content you will get instant access to, depending on what tier you join at. But let me tell you about this little applicator. It's actually a container that I empty, then I add my own masking, then use it to get perfect ornament-shaped marks that I mask, so I can then paint my Christmas tree with wild watercolor gorgeous abandon. Come paint this Christmas tree with me and so many other great holiday paintings on my Patreon. Okay, let's get back to this wonderful brush I want to demonstrate for you, and thanks for listening.
A really great brush would be to use an Asian calligraphy brush. Asian bamboo, very cheap. Yes, they fall apart, but they are natural goat hair. And I've heard that these are organic because they cut the hair off the animal, which I love that. And when you get them wet, you can splay them and get beautiful texture, very lyrical texture. Let's paint this little guy. This little, in my reference, the frond that is in this area is a lot lighter green. So we can start with a base of more yellow, a more pure color. And usually you do want to start with more pure color in watercolor and work your way towards grayer and darker as you progress in the painting process. So I'm going to get a good amount of Permanent Green Light by Daniel Smith and some Winsor Green Gold, some Aureolin. These are all young, fresh green colors with a very little bit of red added, just to make it look natural. See, you can mold this brush into a tip like this, and it'll create a beautiful dry brush, really lyrical, I feel like, and then you can splay it too for kind of a wisp brush effect, which is the same thing this wisp brush does. By the way, you can buy sets of these for so cheap and get a lot of different sizes, so there's a lot available. But if you paint with this frond brush, obviously it's gonna, and you got to get plenty of, you splay the bristles and then pick up some paint. If nothing comes out of your brush like what just happened to me, that means you just need to pick up maybe a little bit more water in your tip and a little bit more paint in your tip, and then try again. So that's creating a nice feathery look too. Okay, so now I've got my base color in of the young green. And I'm just starting at the center of the branch where these fronds would start their growth and going out like that. So you start in the center and go out, okay? And then I'll get, while this is still wet, preferably, get some of that. I've already got green in my brush, so I can mix in my brush by just adding blue and purple to my brush, and now it's almost too blue, so I'll just pick up another swipe of Winsor Permanent Green Light, blue, little red to make it more natural, more blue to make it thicker. And I think I'm going to go back to a tip here, and while this is still wet, preferably just put in some, and definitely put in the dark down the middle, and see how I kind of danced my brush. And this is what I love about this brush. See how when I danced my strokes like that, I got really thin areas and really thick areas, really calligraphic looking, and the brush did a lot of that work. So you use just the tip, and then you just, it's almost like dancing your brush over the paper. And especially in a larger area, this brush gets calligraphic marks unlike any other paintbrush. It's just so fun to play with. So they're cheap. So play with these. Now I'm getting almost a pure blue, and I'm gonna, while my paint is still damp, I can put in a few little marks of pure blue that will read as green because I'm painting it into green and it's wet. So that's really pretty too. So that's what you can get with this brush. All right, now I'll show you the wisp brush. I don't like the, I have thick cream consistency paint in my brush, so I'm gonna dip my brush, just the tip, and then I'm gonna squeeze out all that yummy paint that I could still use. I squeeze it out of my brush so I can still use it as a base for mixing the next color. That'll also help me keep the same green so they kind of match, which is a good thing. This, we already painted some of the green on here before we did the masking, and before we took the masking off, so that's what we have, and it looks good, but obviously it needs more. So I'm going to pick up my base color, which is a more pure screaming green color. Oh wait, I'm not using this brush. Okay, so this is a wisp brush. I think it's a Royal and Langnickel brush. It's also called a rake brush. And so let's see what this little bad boy can do. We're going to just get the brush saturated with some color. I'm going to get more water in my brush, more color, more yellow, more green, a little bit of the junk mixed in to make it look more natural. And you can use it on the side like this. And look how good that would be for fur. So the reason why I don't use this brush more for fur is I just forget. So you might be like, why don't I see you using that? I don't want to paint over this red though. I'm going to be careful not to paint over this red because I need to paint that red cherry. So I might need to come back later and put a few wisps over the cherries. But I'm just going to get my base bright green in. I love how my greenery melted into the cat here, so I want to save that. This is just like, you can think in terms of, and see how I'm starting at the middle of the branch and going out. And then you can also use it flat like this, and it'll just naturally give you some wisp. And you try to use a light touch towards the end of the stroke so it makes a nice point. And then all that masking hard edge kind of disappears under our brush strokes, doesn't it? So that's nice. All right, and then I'm going to get, while this is still damp, this is called wet and wet painting. When you paint something and then you go into that wet paint and add more. So now I'm getting my cream consistency, almost cream consistency paint with blue and mixing it into what I already have for a darker green. And I'm going to paint that just along the edge and see how it's melting up into my brush strokes I already made. And that looks good. And you can let that dry a little bit and then add some more texture if it's too loose looking. But I think that's looking good. All right, so what did you guys think was your favorite brush?
Thank you so much for joining me for this tutorial. Be sure to check out my free Facebook group. Come and post your paintings. Come look at everybody else's paintings, get ideas, ask questions. We're a great supportive community, and I'd love to have you join us there, and I will put that link here. If you would like to learn from me more in depth, I do have a Patreon. I will put that link here, and my supply list is at rachelstudio.com/supply list. And I have a lot of other fun free goodies in my description. I'll also put links in my comments section, so be sure to check that out. Until next time, go watercolor your world. Bye, everybody.